a great man. How are you doing? How are you all doing? If you're watching on TikTok, double click the screen if you're watching on TikTok. How are you doing? Double click the screen, double click the screen, double click the screen. I'm also looking for my number one and my number two gift. A big shout out to my TikTok family. So, how are you doing today? Quite a bit of drama ensued on social media. Now, this report can be seen only on Remedy blog. Ada Blessing, how are you, my darling? I'm trying to see if it's on. It's on New Telegraph. It's not on any of the major blogs. So I am not sure of the veracity of this particular report. So, guys, as always, we take everything that is unverified. I wouldn't say it's unverified, but I'll just say it's a developing story. So, um, it's really been a tough period for the Edochies, and this is also an opportunity for us to learn a few lessons from the saga. Today, we're going to talk about bigamy, or should I call it bigamy? We're going to talk about it right here. Someone said allegedly. Yes, all these are allegations. It's an alleged story. Thank you so much, Ada Blessing. It is an alleged story. But we're going to discuss it, and if tomorrow it proves to be untrue, we will be the first to debunk it. Now, I want to talk about quite a few things. I want to talk about, it's unproven so far, but let's see what comes up tomorrow. In as much as we want to be the first to break the news, we also do not want to hurt any of the parties involved. I want us to talk about bigamy. I want us to talk about adultery. And I also want us to talk about the 100 million naira suit. Of course, the platform is open for anyone and everyone from both sides, from May's side, from Yule's side, and as a matter of fact, from even Judy's side, to come and share their side of the story. Now, there's something I always say. We are the media. We are not, we don't mean this from a mischievous perspective. We are the media, and it is our duty to report and discuss matters of social significance. And I've not seen any caveat that says we cannot discuss this in front of the media. I have nothing against Yule and Judy's union, but I also have utmost respect for May, who I believe was slighted in this particular scenario. And she has shown us that with her actions, that is, that she is not the type that bends to social media. Now, we need to understand that there is, or should I say, was a twist to this saga, and that is none other than the demise of their son. That definitely would have shaken any woman. And I pray to God that no couple, whether they're together or divorced, should ever, ever go through losing a child. I don't pray it on my worst enemies. As a matter of fact, I pray for my enemies to raise their children. I pray that they have good children. And I pray that their children succeed so that they are too busy celebrating their children to have time to winch me. That's even my enemies, let alone my friends and family. May you never. Taste Buds lost her sister about 12 years ago. She has not recovered. Her mother has not recovered. Any small thing, if only Uche was around, if only Uche was around, if only Uche was around. That Uche, by the way, who was Taste Bud's immediate elder sister, was in her 30s when she passed on. Family never recovered. Till today, there is a hole inside that family, a vacuum left by the demise of that child. So it's one of the things I fear the most. I might not be on good terms with my first two children, but God forbid, I don't pray that anything happens to. I pray the best for them. Even if we don't ever see again, let them always have the best. Let them have the best in life, things money can buy and things money cannot buy. Let them be okay. If we don't ever greet again from now till we all move to wherever we are going to, let it not be that anything happens to them. Not sickness, not anything. I know what it is like. I've never lost a sibling. I'm one of the lucky ones. My father is 78. He's alive, harassing us sometimes. My mom was with us for Taste. My mom had to come over for Taste Bud's birthday. Even though we don't celebrate birthdays in the Free Nation, we at least acknowledge the fact that someone was born today. We just don't have those birthday feasts and all. And my mom came around. She was on her way to the UK as I'm speaking to you. She's probably on her flight on the way to the UK. She had to stay 2 or 3 days. If my mom comes to your house for 2 or 3 days, just know that you are lucky. My mother does not have 2 or 3 days to give anybody in her life. She's super busy. But she was around. I even had the opportunity to drive her in my old convertible because I got a new one. Yeah, but we thank God for all those things. So anyway, that's in passing. So I'm one of the lucky ones, like I said, and I have both my parents alive. My dad at 78, we almost lost him last year. He had a stroke, and after the stroke, he had a heart attack. And he needed a full coronary artery bypass surgery, what is known in medical terms as a cabbage. They did it in Nigeria. You see, let me tell you something. Don't joke with my Nigerian doctors. That's why I tell people. I've had family members that we treated for cancer in Nigeria. We have some of the that Luth Cancer Center is one of the best cancer centers in the world. Macure has a PET-CT machine, one of the best in the only one in West Africa. People come from Ghana to use it. I've treated 2 family members for cancer, in fact 3, in this Nigeria. And I'm not sure they will have gotten better treatment abroad. I know people who are on queues. If you're on NHS or one of those insurance, and the treatment is $100 and something thousand, they will put you on a long queue. But in Nigeria, you'll do it at a fraction of the price, but as you have to have money. The problem is it's not available to everybody. Not because it's not available, but because it's expensive compared to what is it called, to the Western world. So like I was saying, my father had major heart surgery in Nigeria, and he's alive. He's walking up and down, fighting with us sometimes. Normally when he fights with us, I just sometimes fight him back. But now that I know that, Baba still a fight too. You hear the things what my body do after I survive stroke and heart attack. In 1 year, he had the stroke. Then he had the heart attack. And if I call him now, he goes still they follow me, argue one thing. So I just thank God he's alive. And because I am lucky at 47 to have both parents alive. Most you need to understand the Nigerian life expectancy rate is abysmally small. So Taste Buds lost her dad in 2019. She was broken. Sometimes she feels she went to see him. He recovered. He was okay. She came back. Then she was supposed to go and see him again, and then he passed. And then she keeps saying, oh, if she hadn't been working, if she had left work. And you see, when you lose someone, especially if the person is a sibling or a parent or a child, it's almost impossible, especially for women, to get over it. I've taken a child to the hospital. I go to the hospital. When I go to the hospital, no matter what happens, the first thing that comes to my mind is I need the best doctors. I start looking for the best doctors, and I need money. I start seeing, okay, where do I get the money from? Taste Buds, if he bust tears for you now. And I used to wonder, why are you crying? What's wrong? I mean, man, I don't think in those lines. But my sister had to tell me that, look, the bond between a woman and a child is different from the bond between a man and a child. So definitely May took a blow. Now, as an Igbo woman, losing a son is like losing an arm, or in fact, half of your body. So we must be very sensitive with the feelings of May Edochie with regards to the child. I'm not saying I cannot teach you how to mourn. You understand? Men mourn differently. And do I agree with his mourning? Someone said that if he is the way you're doing right, who am I to judge him? I've got to be very careful in this situation because they're two different people. The way a man sees life and the way a woman sees life. Now, even among the men and women, I call it the menstrual, there's a name I call it, the menstrual spectrum. There are two types of women. The ones that see their period, feel a blood flow, or see that their underwear is stained and put a pad, and the ones that have to go to hospital. They have to be rushed to hospital anytime they have period. Those are the two extremes. And then you have anything in between. The ones who have a little pain, the ones who have a little more pain, the ones who have cramps, the ones who have moderate cramps, the ones who have severe cramps, the ones who have cramps that need to take them to hospital, and the ones who have to be in hospital for the whole period. What am I using this to explain? Even among women, there are still variations. There are some women who are very emotional, while some are just mildly emotional, and there are some men who are more emotional, while some are less emotional. It doesn't make either one right or wrong. We're very good in this part of the world to create a binary system out of everything. Is it right or wrong? Sometimes it's not right or wrong. Sometimes it is what it is. And in this particular situation, I cannot say Yul is wrong for the way he went about his mourning. He knows what he's doing. He knows how he sleeps at night. He knows whether he's been on BP medication. He knows what he goes through. You understand? But also, I can only appreciate what a woman goes through. When Taste Bud's mother lost her elder sister, she had to be sedated for at least a week. She was not normal for at least a week. And then 12 years later, you can sense the pain in her voice when she's talking about this child that she lost. May her soul rest in peace. So this particular matter has a plethora of dimensions, and we've got to be sensitive to all the parties involved. But right now, the focus is more on May, and I'm going to read this particular report to you. I read it earlier on. I had to wear my glasses, and I'm going to have to wear my glasses again just in case you missed the earlier broadcast. Like I said, you can find this on Remedy blog. So that is Remedy blog on Instagram. So if you have any questions, you can go and check it out there. That's where I got it from, and I do stand corrected just in case this, for one reason or the other, is not a true representation of the facts. So according to DPA Family Law Clinic, as broadcast by Remedy blog, the message was 18 hours ago and 9 hours ago. So I think by the time Remedy blog was making a screenshot of it, it was 18 hours ago, and then he posted it about 9 hours ago. So let's say a total of about 27 hours. And here's what it says. It says, Edochie's situation, understanding the reality of it. I have not seen in recent times a case where so much is going on, and yet not much is known to the public, despite the intense public interest. For avoidance of doubts, May Edochie filed a divorce petition against Yule. She also filed against Judy as a party cited, and she is asking for 100 million naira in damages against Judy for adultery with her husband. Make no mistake about it, Yule and Judy are not husband and wife. The not is in capital letters, and cannot be so until Yule and May are divorced. It is a combination of delusion and absurdity for the two to call themselves husband and wife yet. Both Judy and Yule are aware of the lawsuit, having received copies of the suit papers by email. Surprisingly, both Yule and Judy are avoiding service of the process upon them. The court bailiff has tried so many times to serve them in accordance with the rules of the court, but they have evaded service of court process. Despite the braggadocio and social media stunts, Yule and Judy are facing serious legal challenges and seem ill-prepared for them, given the fact that they have been evading service of the process. In addition to the substantiative petition, May also filed for an order of the court restraining Yule from accessing their former matrimonial home. That application is based on the fact that there are genuine security and safety concerns. Yule's behavior has been erratic, irrational, aggressive, and increasingly threatening. He seems to have been under some influence, the full extent or scope of which we are yet to ascertain. But measures are being taken to protect May and her children. These measures are proportionate to the threats. Despite the combination of circumstances at the present time, last weekend, against all advice, Yule attempted to access the home, now occupied alone by May and her children, but he was stopped by the intervention of law enforcement. He was reminded that henceforth all issues involving his marriage to May and dealings in that regard are sub judice. He should consult his lawyer when and if he hires one, and be guided by such lawyer. After the events of last weekend, it was not surprising at all to hear that Yule and Judy would be on social media in a comic display where Judy showers Yule with unfettered adulation, I beg your pardon, calling him Odogu, the best in Africa, and Fountainhead. It is totally understandable that he will need such an extreme ego massage. As the world can attest by now, May is the sharp opposite of Yule and Judy. She is calm, rational, and incredibly stoic. Despite the enormous losses and suffering she has endured lately, she held on to high values of honor and integrity, and remains calm and focused in the face of turbulence. She has earned the respect and admiration of many good people. Signed by DPA Family Law Clinic. And it says, DPA Family Law Clinic remains committed to supporting her through the storm. Note, May is represented in court by Femi Falana's firm and EQ Law Group. Our family law clinic plays a support role aside from litigation activities. So that is signed by the law clinic. So yes, I was talking about this earlier on, but this was in the middle of so much. I thought I was going to be able to actually take a break and address so many issues, but sadly, I couldn't. Somebody, Okoloma5 says, freeze, go and sleep. Maybe when your father leaves his security work where he's doing, while he's doing it, he's trying to catch flying termites so that you people can have some protein to eat with your akamu. It's not likely he can provide anything better. And from the malnutrition exhibited in the slow development of your intellectual abilities, obviously you have not been fed anything better. I think you should tell your father to leave the termite hunt and the okete hunt, and you should leave the bush where he's looking for Emo and go and sleep. Okoloma 6. See his name. Afoko no really. Jalori live me Joma Jerry and by mo. How many of your mates do you see here? I like Lokpolo. Please try and insult me so that I can send you home. So back to what I was saying, and a lot of people don't understand this. Let me tell you something. Many of you don't realize that Nigeria operates the British system. And I remember when a certain friend I know, the ex-husband said, give me my children. And the wife told him, you don't have children. They are our children. And he thought he could go and bragado the village people. And he went to a village in the east and said he wants to collect his children back. Went there, I think bought a cow for the elders in the village and dashed them some money. You know, sometimes village elders can be such idiots. but dash them some small money, hungry old village elders that don't have sense. And those ones too came and were talking smack or more. They served them court order, everybody kept quiet. They served them court order, everybody kept quiet. The court, I've said this so many times where people will argue, the court is superior to any traditional belief you want to uphold or have. As I'm speaking to you now, if May has filed a restraining order against you in a court of law, he cannot access that home. At least by my understanding of the law. Neither can he claim his children. If he was there the day we're discussing this and somebody was arguing this thing with me. You see, and why am I telling you this? In a marriage, although the law favors both parties, remember this is Oyinbo people's law. Oyinbo people's law does not understand polygamy. Oyinbo people's law does not understand that as a man it is your right to have side chicks. Oyinbo people's law do not understand that as a man you can have baby mamas. Oyinbo people's law does not understand it. So as a man, if you had a promiscuous father or your father was polygamous or you knew many of your father's girlfriends, I beg you in the name of God, do not marry in court. Just in case the tendencies of your father creep up. You cannot defend it in court. So as a man, if you know that, especially when you are wealthy, you don't want to be tied to one woman, you want to be able to marry a younger wife when your wife becomes too old or too busy, marry her traditionally. A lot of people think that traditional marriage, you see, let me tell you one thing about Igbo people. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day about Putin and Russia. As far as I'm concerned, Russia has never threatened Africa. Russia never colonized Africa. Russia has wiped our debt and sent us grain many times. But because we are so dense, those that colonized us are quarreling with Russia and we join them in the quarrel. It's like we are mad people. There was nobody called Jesus. Jesus never existed. The man who existed was a Hebrew man, a Palestinian Jew called Yahushua HaMashiach or Yeshua. He lived in Israel. He was born in the Palestinian city of Bethlehem. When he was a child, Herod ordered the buying of all the children and he ran to Africa, where we are now, for protection until Herod passed. He did not run to the UK. We have copied their version of the narrative. We need to understand, and I'm going somewhere with this. You need to understand that Palestine was conquered by the Greeks, Alexander the Great, and then consequently by the Romans. And the Romans authorized the translation of scripture, and that's why we have the Latin Vulgate, which was the only Bible for about 1,200 years before the English Bible that people think is the real Bible came about. So before this English Bible, that is only 400 years old, there was the Latin Bible, that was the only Bible the world knew for 1,200 years, a whole millennium and 2 centuries. Now the King James translates the Bible. King James did not particularly like Africans. He profited from slave trade. But that story for another day. They rewrote the narrative to suit them. And they spoon-fed us their narrative. So we inherited the narrative of Christianity. White wedding, that we call church wedding, is their own traditional wedding. But they fed it to us like it is the original wedding. We are dumb copycats. We just copy whatever we see, whether it is justifiable or not. We just copy. That's why I tell you, and I say this again, quote me before any pastor, quote me before any priest, quote me before any man of God and his spiritual father and their spiritual ancestors. There is no such thing as a church wedding. A church wedding is an invention of our colonial masters. It is of no spiritual consequence. I say that again. If you marry in a church, you are not superior to somebody who marries traditionally. As a matter of fact, a traditional wedding is superior to a church wedding. By a wide margin, you cannot even compare. Traditionally, it is parents who give their children out. It can be traced from our father Abraham, the father of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Abraham organized his son Isaac's wedding, and Isaac and his wife organized Jacob's wedding. They sent him to his mother's uncle Laban, and the Bible is clear on how Laban married his daughters Leah and Rachel to Jacob in a traditional wedding. In John chapter 2, we are told of a traditional wedding that Christ attended. He did not go there to preach. He did not go there to heal. He did not go there to bless the couple. He went there and gave them some more alcohol to drink so that they could be merry and have fun. There is no instance in all of Scripture. I have read all the missing books. I have read the Apocrypha. I have read the books that they said should be in the Bible, but down to biblical, down to scriptures like Bel and the Dragon. The Testament of Solomon, where Solomon hired a demon called Asmodeus to build God's temple. I've read all those books, and not in any one of the books. Not in the Ethiopian Bible that has 82 books, or the Catholic Bible that has 70-something books, 77 or so, or the King James that has 60-something books. Not in any of these Bibles, New or Old Testament, Apocrypha or Scripture, would you find a single instance of where the church was given authority to marry people. It is a stupid, dangerous, toxic notion, because it makes you feel like it is ordained by God. God did not ordain the church to marry people. God ordained families to marry people. And if the wedding Christ himself attended was a traditional wedding, I don't know why you want to come and give Christ assignment that he did not ask you for. I'm going to address this scripturally. Luke chapter 12 verse 13. Please bear with me. I know you people don't like Bible, but it's okay. I need to prove this point. Then someone, Luke chapter 12 verse 13. Then someone called from the crowd, "Teacher, Please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me. Here's Christ's response. Friend, who made me a judge over you to decide such things as these? Who, if Christ told people then that who made him a judge to decide land matters, how do you make him a judge to decide marital matters? So the problem with the court, the church, I understand the court marriage. I understand the traditional marriage. The court is well explained in Romans chapter 13. Maybe I should read it to you. The court is very, very biblical. Everyone must submit himself to the government authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established, and the authorities that exist have been established by God. Romans chapter 13. So, court wedding makes sense. Traditional wedding makes sense. I'll explain this to you. When you go to court, you go there to protect yourself. Should there be a fine or whatever it is, you are offered some level of protection. If you're watching on TikTok, double click my screen or double click my screen. People like to watch, and if I don't have time to be singing for you people will not be double clicking and you not be sending those gifts. I'm looking for my number one gifter, my number one, my number two, and my number three gifter. We are. Follow my number one gifter. Follow my number one gifter. If you're watching on TikTok, double click the screen. So let me continue with that. Someone said, but that verse was not talking about court wedding. God, Spider-Man. Before I block you because your brain is so shallow, I am showing you that Christ said he does not have anything to do with landed matters. The same way he does not have anything to do with marriage. The time he attended the wedding in John chapter 2, he did not go there to officiate. Use your brain. I know it is paining you. Drink Panadol. Christ's business does not involve marrying people to one another. That's your father and your mother's business. But because your father does not have sense, he has given his authority to a pastor who equally does not have sense. Can I please continue? We're here yesterday when a woman came to cry about how a pastor destroyed her life, made her sell her business, her car, her bed, her husband left her, and you are still here arguing with me. You know this book. Your pastor's spiritual father in the Lord, does he know this book as much as I do? If it's not for the mercy of God, you should be picking papers on the floor and sleeping at a roundabout, tying posters around your waist. Now, can I please continue? This is why the church wedding is the most dangerous. Church wedding is dangerous. I'll explain it to you. You see, court wedding, you know what you are getting in court, and you know what you are not getting. I'll explain it to you. A woman goes to court and gets protection, like May is getting protection. A man goes to court and also gets protection. But a man knows that if he goes to court, he cannot marry a second wife. A man knows that if he goes to court, he cannot have a side chick. A man knows that if he goes to court, a woman gives birth for him outside. That woman can be sued for adultery. And if he marries any other person, if he has a court wedding, and he marries somebody else traditionally, it is still bigamy. You cannot conduct any other marriage as long as the first marriage is substantiated. A man, you know what you're getting into when you go to court. So you can choose to get into it or not. You know what you get from the traditional marriage. As a traditional man, you can have a side chick. You can have A woman that gave birth to you, you can, if your woman gives birth to you, the council of elders will advise you to marry her and bring her home. So you know what you're getting. But do you know why the church wedding is the most useless and the most dangerous? Because it puts a God stamp on human stupidity. It puts a God stamp on human stupidity. And I'll explain it to you. For you to get married in court, in church, the church mandates a court wedding. The church will register you and take that registry to the court. So even if you don't go to court, if you marry in church, it is the equivalent of marrying in court. So many of you go to church for a godly union without understanding that through the name of God you have shot yourself in the foot. That's why some men that their brain is open, they say, me I know say I go get side chick, or me I know say I go get second wife, or I know they go court. Woman knows, say, hey, if I no go court, this man will throw me out of his house. Any day he's tired of me, I'm going to court. But you see, the church one, they make it look like it is God that is doing it. God has no business with church wedding. The wedding that God knows and approves is your traditional wedding. After that, the second wedding that God approves is the legal court wedding. God does not want you to masquerade a court wedding under his name. He did not send you people that one. So all of you that keep going to church to marry each other, just understand the deadliness of it. Any day they will drag you. You will know say you go get side chick. You will know say you go get a second wife. If your papa dey polygamous, no go marry for church. As a man, think it very deep and very true. When you divorce according to the court, your wife can take as much as half of your possessions. If they are not enforcing it in Nigeria yet, one day they will wake up, smoke Igbo, and begin to enforce it too. One day they go wake up, lick Colorado, and begin to enforce it. Una go come think say, these people don't they meant. It's always been there. Once you marry under the court system, you expose yourself to the dangers of what is called bigamy or bigamy. There is no way you can sign a prenup. You see, a prenup can also become invalid if you include mischievous things like you want to have a second wife. It is impossible under law, under the British law that we practice. Like, we don't have our own law because we don't have sense. But anyway, that was my business. Under the British law that we practice, it is impossible to have a prenup that involves you having a second wife. It's not possible. That's not going to be a valid document. It's like me signing a prenup that anytime I rob, my wife will not get anything from my robbery if she's cheating on me. Am I supposed to rob in the first place? Bigamy carries a sentence of up to 8 years in prison. Let me educate you on certain things. Let me read you some things. It's a very important session, and I want us to read about bigamy or bigamy. I'm not a lawyer, by the way. Neither am I a judge or a legal practitioner. I've not gone to law school. My understanding of the law comes from conversations with lawyers and, of course, living with my mother, who is a professor of law. My mother this year had her 40 years at the Nigerian bar, and in attendance were over 50 senior advocates of Nigeria that she trained, either in when she was a lecturer in the university. She still is a lecturer. I don't know if she still lectures or she's just a vice chancellor now and runs the university. However, let's talk about this. Is bigamy against the law in Nigeria? The Black's Law Dictionary defined bigamy as the act of marrying one person while still legally married to another. Bigamy is generally a criminal offense, and it is governed by the criminal code of various southern states in Nigeria and the penal code of various northern states in Nigeria. Any person who, having a husband or wife living, meaning if you have a husband or wife who is alive, and marries in any case which such marriage is void by reason of its taking place during the life of such husband or wife, is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for 7 years. This section of the code does not extend to any person whose marriage with such husband or wife has been dissolved or declared void by a court of competent jurisdiction, nor to any person who contracts a marriage during the life of a former husband or wife, if such husband or wife at the time of the subsequent marriage shall have been absent from such person for the space of 7 years, and shall not have heard of by such person as being alive within that time. 370 of the Criminal Code Act, and it read thus: any person who, having a husband or wife living, marries in any case in which such marriage is void by reason of its taking place during the life of such husband or wife, is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for 7 years. So bigamy exists. What is bigamy? Contracting another marriage while your current marriage is alive or in existence. John Hawkwood is asking, does the Nigerian Marital Act recognize traditional marriage? Of course it does. And let me tell you how it recognizes it from my understanding of the law. If I am traditionally married to Samaria, I cannot legally marry Ada in court, because the court recognizes my first marriage even though it is traditional. So I cannot now marry Ada in court, but I can marry Ada traditionally. So I'm married to Samaria traditionally. I can marry Ada traditionally. However, if I marry Samaria traditionally, I cannot marry Ada legally. It is impossible. I am telling you this. I wouldn't say authoritatively because I'm not a lawyer, but consult your lawyer. Secondly, any marital act, whether it is traditional or the payment of dowry, as long as your first legal marriage is not divorce, is considered an act of bigamy, and you could be liable to 7 years in prison. The last time I said it, you people argued. This is what is playing out now. This is what is playing out now. Because you married Judy traditionally. He did not carry her to another court. He married her traditionally. that traditional marriage is considered an act of bigamy because he already has a legal marriage pending that has not been dissolved or nullified by a court of competent jurisdiction. Once again, I am not a lawyer, neither do I claim to be, but that is my personal opinion on my understanding of the law. And that is why I'm telling you today that if you want to marry a second wife, make sure you do not marry your first wife legally. You married her traditionally. Women, unless you are marrying a king, like you go and marry Oni of Ife, Oni of Ife is not going to go and marry you in a court. You even asking for it is like you are on colos. So I'm not sure you're going to marry Buhari's son in court. He probably knows he's going to have a second wife somewhere down the line, and he's going to call you and caution you and say, look, I'm not doing this court wedding. So we'll probably do an Islamic wedding so that there's the chance for him to have a second wife somewhere down the line, just in case you start misbehaving. I need to be fair to both genders. Men, you cannot marry a second wife if you are married in court. You have a court wedding. You cannot. So think about it very carefully. Now, a woman goes into a marriage. For instance, now, my daughter wants to marry Dangote. Dangote says, hey, small girl, I like you. I want to marry you. Dangote is not going to follow her to court when he's not mad. What is he going to do in court? His mother will call him and pull his ear. You want to carry half of your money and go and give this small girl that you want to marry. So Dangote will marry her traditionally. Why? So that if they divorce in the future, he can just decide and say, okay, small girl, take $2 million. Me as her father, I need to now ask her, my darling daughter, I need to advise her accordingly. If I tell you to ask Dangote to marry you in a court, he will never marry you in court. He's not stupid. However, what do you want from the marriage? You love him, but you know that court marriage is going to risk his life or his finances so that they'll come and take half of what he has worked for. He will never give it to you. So you will want to marry somebody like Dangote or maybe Wizkid or someone who's famous and wealthy. You need to understand the limitations. You need to understand the limitations of marrying a rich man or a wealthy man or a politician or someone from the ruling class. That is very important. So if my daughter comes and says she loves Dangote and Dangote is going to marry her and he said he's not going to go to court, I'll ask her, are you okay with it? If you are, marry him. If you are not, leave. I cannot insist that my daughter must have a court wedding when she wants to marry a billionaire, when it's not that I used to borrow Dangote money when he was up and coming. I also have to manage my expectations. Nigerians don't know how to manage their expectations. You go abroad and they give you all sorts of, and you see what happens. No. If I lived abroad, I'll never marry. Woman go born for me, go end there. I don't go marry. Marry, wait, me can carry half of what I get. Even though I don't really get anything, nobody say I get plenty like that. I know still won't lose half of them. Because one day, my wife, he just wake up, say she don't do the marriage again. Auntie, what's wrong? I don't do again, finish. You'll come begin beg, say she don't do again. As she go, she collect half, they go. But if my daughter wants to marry an up-and-coming guy, I would advise her to make sure she has a prenup. sorry, prenup. Make sure she marries him in court. Imagine my daughter wants to marry John. I'm not saying John is not rich, but John no get money reach them Dangote. So if my daughter won't marry John, I go tell her, say, if he no carry you go court, no marry am. He must carry you to court. Now, if John were my son, and I know say John like woman, I will call John aside and say, John, no let woman drag you go court because your eye, you get a shower for eye. Make him no be say you go give another woman belle enter trouble down the road. So my advice for my daughter is different from my advice to my son. Nigerians always look for one cap fits all remedy to every problem. No. If I married my ex traditionally, I will not go through half of the mess I went through. Someone said marriage is essential in the USA. Do I look to you like I want to come and live in the USA? Anything we pass visiting the USA for 1 week or 2 weeks, I'm not there. I'm not interested. I pray to God every day that Nigeria will not go to war. I pray to God every day that Tinubu and the ruling party managed to fix this country. I appreciate his broadcast. I was even watching Rufai Oseni, who know they ever say anything good about APC, speaking objectively about it. And I was like, oh wow, nothing they carry me going abroad now, and I get them. So if they say abroad you must marry, that's their business. It's okay, they'll be fine. Understand the dynamics of your situation. Men, protect your interests. Women, protect your interests. Where a woman's interests are protected, a man's interests are at jeopardy. Where a man's interests are protected, a woman's interests are at jeopardy. Traditional marriage does not favor women. If you walk out of a traditional marriage, you will give up your children and you are not going with anything. If the man says you are not even driving the car he bought for you, unless you have taken the car out of the compound, I doubt if you'll be able to. It does not favor you as a woman. Traditional marriage favors you as a man. So when I say men, watch your interests are different from your wife's interest. Should a conflict of interest arise? Those are my personal thoughts. I hope I have touched on every aspect of this very, very challenging situation. I wish my brother Yul Edochie and his new wife Judy, or this document, the lawyer say you cannot call her wife, so let me just say his woman Judy, because I don't want them coming after me say that the phrase now you I no get power, I no fit fight, I no fit shout. Someone says, listen to this. Fola, sexy, Dubai. She says, so because others are having issues with their marriage, don't think your marriage will be so too. Let me warn you, as a church leader and counselor, as a matter of fact, I charge $100 for 30 minutes of counsel, which includes even marriage counseling. I will counsel you on WhatsApp for free. If I'm to pick your call, it's $100 for 30 minutes. Let me tell you something for free. 80% of Nigerian marriages are heading for the rocks. From the day you marry, the likelihood that your marriage will end well is 20% from my personal statistics. So, if you want your marriage to be different, protect yourself, think well. That's why I'm telling you, me, for instance, when I got married to my ex, I did not understand. If I had known, they asked me, do you really want to go to court? Mumu said, yeah, I want to go to court. I did not know the implication. If I had known, I would never use my leg enter court. And we never did church wedding. I don't know how we missed it. Okay, I think because she was pregnant and the church refused to marry her. So, but the court agreed, which was bad enough anyway because I set myself up. Please, if you're watching on TikTok, double click my screen, double click. Let me even just shout out to TikTok. All of you watching on YouTube, nobody has sent me super chat or super stickers. I'm not talking again. I've tried. Yeah, thanks. You like my cap? I have quite a few caps. Tosiolu, I promised I was gonna call you. I'm gonna call you once I end this live. I'll put a video call through to you, so you better wear cloth. I always do that to all my friends. I just call them video call straight. I can be mischievous. Ask Samaria and Ada and Oju and who else? Remy and all the crew. Ebiere. Someone said you'll never. Someone is here talking. You see, this is why when they talk, we now go they argue. He said, listen to what this gentleman is saying. Nel Tombalala. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Yul never committed any offense legally. His issue is between him and May, and it is for them to settle and continue to beef. Judy did what most ladies does in secret, so it's not new in the Nigeria. Brother, this your English. They receive drip for hospital at the moment. When this your English complete the dosage of the medicine where they collect now, come back again, and they give you advice, you are telling me you did nothing wrong. Are you walking around in the dark bumping your head, or you actually sat down and typed that? Are you on your 5th bottle or your 6th bottle? Because I know you cannot just wake up and type what you just typed. I explained to you from a legal perspective. Even though I'm not a lawyer, from my understanding of the law, which you can ask your lawyer to explain to you better, you are telling me you did not commit any offense. It's like you did not hear what the whole letter I read to you. Education is not a scam. This is living proof why it is not a scam. You go just type. Before you press send, why don't you read what you typed? Are your eyes that blurry? Please, if you're watching on TikTok, I'm looking for my #1 gifter. Oh, somebody just actually sent me a money gun. Thank you so much. Money gun queen, I've missed you so much. Unapologetically Titan. I was looking for you the other day. Where have you been? Where on earth have you been? Funds, my #2 gifter. Hey, these guys are so amazing. Funds, how you doing? Noel E, big shout out, big shout out. Who popped me a money gun while I was talking? Unapologetically Titan. You have abandoned me for so long, eh? My money gun queen. You have abandoned me for so long. So, Kafi Dance, how are you doing, my darling sister? My lovely sister, how are you? So, I hope you learned something today. What is good for the goose, they say is good for the gander. Ironiu. What is good for the man is not good for the woman. No. Traditional wedding favors men, it does not favor women. Court wedding favors women, it does not favor men. It favors men who want to be monogamous. If you want to be polygamous, it does not favor you. So tread carefully. That is as far as I can go tonight. I'm just gonna, hey, YouTube people, where are my super chats and super stickers? 300 people are watching. Nobody could send me super chat and super stickers. Hot mom! You want me to shout at you? Yeah, come and buy my super chats and super stickers on YouTube. Come and buy my money guns. I'm looking for my #1 gifter on TikTok and on Facebook. Big shout out to you all. If you're watching on Instagram, go to Facebook, search for Daddy Freeze, DADDY FREEZE. Bottom left hand corner, you will see how to buy my stars. I want to bring Kafi live for just 5 minutes. Let her tell us what she thinks. Hey, somebody came to buy my stars on Facebook. Thank you.
Daddy, please, why?
Put on your light and tell me what you're thinking. Don't tell me you not wear clothes. Nigerians
No,
are
of
not.
course. No,
Nigerians are not.
I have my sports brand. Hold on, let me turn on the lights.
Hey, somebody sent me stars. Edith Boomer sent me 2,500 stars. God bless you, Edith. I appreciate you. I had over 1,000 people watching me. Only you decided to send a gift. Kathy, looking beautiful in the middle of the night. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I said, just listening to you. I've been following you on this matter earlier in the day. So I was hoping to catch your second half of the situation.
I didn't plan to come live. I just said, you know what, let me talk about this. Why? Because I want people to learn and understand the consequences of their actions. Because Nigerians don't understand. Yeah. They will say, I didn't know now. I did not know. So it's always very good for you to. But that afternoon when I was on, I had 3,000 people watching me on Facebook, 1,000 plus here, 300 on YouTube. But I wasn't concentrating like I am now. That's why I like the night sessions. Even though I don't have a crowd that big, at least I know that at the end of the day, you guys will catch up and watch the video. So what is your opinion regarding this particular matter?
First of all, I want to say most of your analysis was from a very unemotional standpoint, because in Nigeria, we're very emotional about a lot of situations, and we don't like to look at things from either a logical perspective, a legal perspective, and the law doesn't have emotions. It's just about what you sign up for and all of that. And as much as people might think, I see a lot of comments here who are saying that if we stop advising men not to go to court, or stop advising, or when you're telling men, if you know you cannot hold yourself together, don't do traditional. I think it's from the perspective of knowing your demon and not putting yourself into a cage that you cannot get out of, really. So I don't think it's a direct, you're not telling somebody, go and put your hand in fire. You're just telling them, these are the kind of fires that are available. Watch how you burn. Practically, that's what you're saying. My own take is this. I believe, so my own take is this. You know my own situation, you understand, concerning my own marriage, and I think not going to court will also kind of like help me in a way, you understand, so I can understand the legal drama that goes on. Sometimes can be for against you. In this matter, it's just for you to understand the laws that govern your marital bond, really. And I would say for every woman, I think it's important that you have your own space within your marital place, own your space. Because at the end of the day, if things don't turn your way, everybody ends up by themselves, by who they are before, during, and after. So how you own your space is very, very, very important. So for me, you and Judy and whatever, the old triangle and fiasco going on, it's better off that things start to separate itself as it should, which is what will eventually happen. May has decided to take her own way of fighting back, which is using the legal angle. You and Judy tried their own way, which is I love her and I decided to do what I think is right in that predisposition that I was in. No problem. Whatever it is, we should not be afraid of the consequence of our actions, and everybody will face it regardless. So that's what I think. Everybody is facing the consequences of their actions. So maybe let's use the law to back her up. You decided to use the polygamy, traditional, a man who owning up to his responsibility for a woman impregnated. No problem. You understand? So,
Absolutely. Now, if you have a son, would you advise him to marry in court?
For me, I think that is subjective to the kind of son I have. I am not preempting. I don't think I'm going to preempt him. I'm not going to do that. You understand? Like you mentioned something. You said if your son is the type that you've seen, that he cannot keep himself together, he's a philanderer, you will not advise him. That's what you said. So I would not as a that is the way I will raise him, to not go for law. I will raise him to be a man of integrity, a man that upholds who he is and stands for his word. You understand? So I don't think I'm going to tell my son, don't go for court, go for traditional in case you mess up. I think that is a negative end to the raising part. However, if my son has gone into an adult that I realize that he has battles with keeping a woman and he's trying to make a decision, my own advice would be don't marry. It won't be don't go to court or don't go to. My own is that no, you're not ready. Don't even marry. Why go through all of that? Don't marry. You understand? I'm not the kind of parent that would say, oh, because she's pregnant, marry her. I'm not going to do that. I don't believe that having kids should tie anybody into matrimonial bondage. Not everybody that have children are supposed to be parents. They don't even have parental qualities. People they born, no mean say they be or mama. Just, so I think tradition sometimes puts us in some kind of cage. Marry him. But unfortunately, humanity is complicated. Everything is not black and white. There are gray areas to human behavior. What if the person is a lunatic? He'll make a marry lunatic because he get belay for me, or make a marry person with no guess because I get belay for him. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think the choice is in the reasoning. I'm not going to tell my son to marry if he's not acting like what a responsible husband. Well, it's just like you, Mr. Daddy Freeze. You married Taste, but you did a court wedding. Why did you do court? It's because you already know how to uphold all the intricacies of what you are expected to do as a husband. You know that you're not going to stand for certain things. So you're not going to be caught on fresh with a legal scenario because you don't have that intention to go out of that legal framework. So you went to court. You didn't marry Taste, but traditionally, you went to court. Do you get what I'm saying? Because of your integrity towards marriage. You get it? So that's what I think. That's what I think.
That makes so much sense, my darling sister. So much sense. And I wanted to ask you another thing. In this you and Judy matter, what is your advice to both parties?
First of all, I have
Daddy Freeze. Oh my God, you want people to see my nakedness.
Wear clothes, and I no go here. Share now they see your life now.
Okay. So you said what's my advice for both parties?
Yes.
Generally, I don't like to advise. Advice is almost like preempting a decision for people who will have to live with the consequences of those decisions. So who the blame when the decision is unfavorable or hard to consume? Because sometimes you can give somebody a very good advice, but they don't have the emotional tenacity, spiritual tenacity, or even the psychological capacity to weather the storm that advice would give them. So what's the essence of that advice? Do you get what I mean? So for me, I'll say everybody should, I think I would recommend, or I would that everybody mans up. This is the man up moment now. Everybody should man up to the consequences. Oh, hello, how are you?
I'm fine, Kathy.
Yeah. So man up to the consequences of your actions. You understand? I don't expect people not to fight when they are being hurt. Don't expect people not to fight. If Yul is saying with my full chest, I have taken responsibility of being with another woman. I don't mind still having you, May, in my life. And May is saying, I'm sorry, that's not what I signed up for. I think she's a human being and allowed to make her right decision for herself. That I don't want that. You can't force me in an agreement into a there is no more an agreement. You can't force me into an agreement. Then for Mr. Yul, I would say the consequences of not carrying somebody along in something that, started off as just both of you and was contractual as till death do both of you part, you need to deal with the consequences of that action, regardless of whatever is on your side. So use all the ammunition that is on your side to cushion the effect of the ammunition that is not on your side. So it's almost like playing attack and defense at the same time.
Chief Afe Babalola Are Kabiyesi Afe Babalola said something. He said advice is useless. The wise don't need it, and the foolish will not use it.
Exactly.
So it is useless. A wise man does not need the advice. A foolish man will not use it. So don't bother advising. Anyway, my darling sister, how are you and what is your take? My other sister here.
Before you go, I want to quickly climb on that, your thoughts. I remember when you and I were having a conversation during my own situation, and I learned a lot about taking responsibility for a lot of. I learned a lot, and in this knowledge has maybe grow. Maybe if you have called me on live 6 months ago, I probably have a different perspective about it. But I've learned a lot to understand that owning accountability is one of the greatest resource any human being can have, and owning it is the most courageous thing anybody can be. And not everybody is built. No matter how celebrity status, tough they look, buff they look, there's a lot of hidden background to the foundation of their innate capacity to hold shame, guilt, betrayal, pain. Everybody have it on different thresholds. Because of those underlying thresholds, you can never tell the outcome until the outcome comes out.
Thank you very much. So finally, my darling sister, what are your thoughts?
First of all, thank you, Daddy Freeze, for having me, and good evening, everybody. The thing is that I've never been married back home, so I don't know anything about, like, I don't really know so much about marriage and marital life. But with things I saw, I know that polygamy can be very, very, very toxic. Trust me. And I don't see, my grandpa had 8 wives, so. Yes, so thank God my dad never took part of that. My dad has just my mom, and my mom gave him 9 beautiful kids. So, they find anything for outside. So, I know it wasn't easy, even after because it's not just the present, it's the aftercome of it. When the man leaves, it becomes very, very horrible. Trust me, the family scatters. Yeah. Maybe that time he will be around, he will be holding everything together, trying to be the man of the house and all that. But once that man leaves, it's always horrible. It's not, I don't advise anybody to go into polygamy. And with the situation we're all having right now, everybody is like, all the men are becoming so polygamy this period. So I feel if you still want to go into it, make sure you are carrying your partner along. I mean, some women don't mind. They don't care. I mean, as far as you're carrying them along, as far as you're telling them, oh, baby, I'm doing this, oh, I can't switch this, I mean, they don't care. But once you don't do that or you don't carry that person along, it's always a big problem. And as you can see, I think May is she's like someone like me that cannot share her property. I'm sorry, she just cannot share. And I'm someone like that can't share. So once it's like that, I let go. And which I feel that's what she just did, and that's the best decision. Don't struggle, don't fight. It's not worth it. She just had to let go to have her peace, because there's nothing like peace of mind in this life. It's not about the money, but the peace of mind that she's having, being on her own and having her kids, because her kids are always there to make her happy as far as I'm concerned. So I know he's my colleague, my senior colleague and all that, but the way the whole thing is going is just becoming so dramatic and so annoying, and so sometimes I'll just be at work and I'll just see things popping up on my Facebook and all the rest, and I'll be like, what's all this? Can't I just open up my phone and see something else? Anytime I come to Instagram, I'm seeing this. I go to Facebook, TikTok, I'm like, what is going on? Is there any way, please, people should tell me, is there any way I can stop seeing all those adverts and just have my peace? Like, it's not funny. Forget that we're laughing over it, but it's not funny. The lady, I can imagine what she went through. So I think she took the best decision, fighting them back with a legal whatever. That's the best way to go, because this whole thing it's not easy. I can imagine what she's going through, but
that is freeze. One thing that I've noticed is this. I see that a lot of us, or a lot of people, I'll put it in general, I'm saying us, but it doesn't look like anybody's trying to be self-conscious here. is a lot of us are unhealed people. And most people go into relationship to seek some kind of retribution or saving from something they're running away from. And they believe that another imperfect human being is the answer to something you are lacking. It's not anybody's responsibility to love you. You understand what I'm saying? You get what? I learned that the hard way because we were raised to need external validation. You understand? And from an African perspective, a lot of us will have toxic parenting. You know, even those that had their parents still together. The level of toxicity of what grew us up as kind of degenerated into the neediness, the need for somebody else to complete you, and all of that. It brings a lot of toxicity when two people start to grow differently within the same ecosystem. You understand? Maybe the thought process, the emotional maturity of both parties starts to change. One person is growing more, the other person is not growing more. In the same relationship, it will just manifest into something else, and people start growing apart even when they are together because there's not investment into your personal healing. Even then, some of us are bonded from a traumatic perspective. A lot of men and women are bonded.
Trauma bond.
Trauma.
Yes. And trauma bonding is because your inner self is looking for a familiar space because it can't afford to run to the new space that looks like healing. Healing is one of the most traumatizing, non-linear, erratic phase of a human and adult life because it's like unlearning a lot of things, relearning a lot of things, rediscovering yourself. And sometimes it happens within a marriage. It happens in a marriage.
Absolutely, ladies. Anyway, guys, lovely hanging out with you. God bless you. Kathy, thank you so much. And Nze, I'm going to call
I've
you.
missed you. I've been so busy.
You've been too busy for us. Anyway, guys,
No,
let me
no,
let
no,
you
no,
go to bed. Take care.
All right.
I'm sure this
You too.
will evolve tomorrow. There'll be more perspectives, and I'm gonna take more calls. I just needed one or two people to talk on it, and tomorrow we'll have more opportunities to open up the table. God bless you, Kathy. Thank you so much. Take care and good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.